Mobility is pointless. It has become overemphasized in the fitness world to the point that it's becoming just another fashionable fad, and it's largely misunderstood and pulled out of context. Now, don't get me wrong, here's the caveat. Mobility is only pointless if you don't have 3 other secret pieces to the puzzle. And ironically enough, you won't even build mobility by focusing on mobility. More on that in a sec. The first 2 I'll just mention very quickly since I have many other videos about them. But this will be the first video that discusses the 3rd piece of the puzzle, and probably the first discussing it like this on the internet in total. The first is strength. Duh. This is the first missing piece to mobility. You don't have mobility simply by being flexible. You have mobility because you're strong in large ranges of motion. Everything from weighted single leg squats to partner squats to handstands from all angles like hollow back planche, V-stand, press handstand, to ninja strength like one-arm pull-ups and human flags, or power moves like flares and air flares. The second missing piece is mindset, which saturates all my videos. The misguided mindset in regards to mobility is thinking that isolated joint mobility is going to save your joints, or even build well-rounded mobility or athleticism. It definitely is not going to do that. Mobility is just a function of strength and flexibility. Combined, they allow you to move with strength in all directions. But then comes speed and power, which leads to the 3rd piece, and which will take up the remainder of this video. Most people try to control their training with a death grip, white knuckle approach. It's how they approach most things in life. And this root problem can actually cross over and cause a negative impact on everything from our relationships to money to our mental health. People try to have control over their strength, development, and every aspect of their own bodies, but that is not how the world works. In regards to your physical training, speed and power, for example, occur when you're actually out of control. You begin an action like running and tumbling, or kicking and punching and fighting, or any athletic or daily life maneuver like a fall off a bike, but you are literally not in control during the remainder of it. It is letting go and allowing the subconscious patterns you've built to take over and take control. In this zone of movement, which includes daily life all the way to elite athletics, the injury zone as we call it, and this will supersede mobility every time. In other words, you could be as strong and flexible as you want, but you will still be completely and utterly weak unless you develop this one missing piece. This missing piece is dexterity. It is the grace and ease with which you do anything. It is the difference between muscling and grunting through a deadlift versus effortlessly lifting that same weight even as a skinny person, or flying through a fight sequence for a movie, or easily getting through multiple rounds of a boxing match, or effortlessly navigating a ninja strength kata or a Powerbatics Training combo. Dexterity is what allows your mobility to exist in the real world, not just in the isolated, confined space of a gym or a specific set of exercises. It is the combined elements of strength, flexibility, skill, speed, power, and the biggest piece, your mind. Without dexterity, you have disjointed elements of fitness. It's the clunky weightlifter, the brittle crossfitter, the broken down fighter, the frail yogi, the crunchy bicycle rider. They are like the different pieces of Voltron, each one rusted out. Dexterity is what combines the cardio, the strength, the flexibility, the skill, the movement, all into one, and allows real-world mobility to exist. A simple neurological trick for dexterity is doing this with your fingers. More advanced dexterity would be flare, windmill, flare combo, or a handstand, rebound, box jump up. There's a lot of moving parts that are putting random amounts of stress on different parts of your body. When people do not train with dexterity in mind, it's like doing the bench press, or the standard 3 days a week of weightlift, or flying straight down a hill on a skateboard in one direction. I'm not saying they'll crash or anything, but it's the very definition of training one-dimensionally. Take this for example. Even out of our own training, the handstand element of Powerbatics and Pacific Rim athletics, the planche, it requires wrist mobility, it requires hip mobility if you're doing straddle planche, but what else? It's pretty darn one-dimensional. So what if you can do a planche, even on 2 fingers like some pros? It provides little value beyond that unless you start combining it with other things. This is a huge reason why we created 10 levels for all 5 elements of Powerbatics and designed 1 kata per level. The kata teaches the dexterity that is missing from pretty much every single element of fitness. Not sports, but fitness. Sports, depending on the type, develop certain kinds of dexterity. I would say that acrobatics and martial arts develop the absolute most amount of dexterity. Martial arts, and especially fighting, puts a huge amount of unpredictability into the equation. And the forms or katas from martial arts, as well as the acrobatics from other disciplines, teaches the variability of movement. Either way, in fighting or in kata practice, you're getting the omnidirectional, non-repetitive action that builds the dexterity upon which mobility rests. If a person can do great skin the cats and German hangs, and even roll through multiple times on skin the cats, does not mean they're going to do great in any situation. If their mind spasms in an unpredictable situation, tightening up their arm and shoulder autonomically, they're going to be injured, period. There's so much more at play than just mere mobility. And the reason why this is such an issue is because humanity is just getting worse. Sitting all the time, on their devices, lazy, apathetic, no drive, watching videos all day, expecting some channel or video series to give them all the answers. I remember going to Jamaica on a mission trip. I was blown away at how strong all those kids were. And the same thing in Haiti. They literally walk to places through garbage and have little food, if any. We were playing around with all these partner and group handstands, and I was lifting them up over my head, and it was so much fun. But I remember thinking about the deficiency in all the American kids. Even the tough ones were like the average or below average Haitians and Jamaicans. They're outside all the time since toddlers. They're running around. They're using their bodies. Meanwhile, entire countries, even continents, are losing theirs. And then old people complain about being old. And I don't mean 70-year-olds. I mean 25-year-olds saying they're so old. But they stop moving as humans can and should be. I was blown away when I saw these 50-year-old looking guys in Africa bungee jumping off these tree towers. I'm not suggesting to go do it. It's just super cool that stuff like this is happening and part of normal culture in various places. Or like people chasing down lions in the African plains. Or like people in China sitting in squats for hours upon hours each day doing work with their hands. It also blows me away to see all of the students from young to old in Pacific Rim athletics. They're my heroes. Back to our exposition of dexterity. Basically, humans are capable of so much more. Even if they get to a place of massive immobility and stagnation, the work will be hard, but it is possible, and make no mistake, it is totally and completely worth it. Exercise and fitness will only take you so far though. The mind, the brain, the omnidirectional human movement, the skill development and progress over time. All of these pieces are incredibly important and incredibly nuanced, and even more so when people need to correct those pieces. One very simple, basic beginner way of developing dexterity is just trying to do the first section of our foundation kata. I won't overwhelm you with the whole thing, but just up to the jump turn. Yes, a 360 jump turn. I've seen so many people struggle with this, even though it's very simple. Or the other movements of the kata. It's really interesting to see, but can and should be developed for lifelong health and strength. Like the horse stance in that kata is legs level, arms level, without looking at them. Can you do that? Or shifting to a perfect lunge, arms on ears, hollow core, legs at right angles, without having to look down and check. It's all those little things that you hardwire over time that culminate in real dexterity, both the natural organic play side and then the structured side like katas. And this provides the missing piece to mobility. Otherwise, mobility by itself is just pointless. And then on the flip side, no pun intended, connecting moves in freestyle sequences. Imagine the neurological connections that are created over decades of training like this. Imagine how that transfers over to real-world situations like self-defense, self-preservation, or just maintaining balance. Joint mobility itself won't help, but training for dexterity will. I'm not saying you're going to become superhuman, but heck, quite honestly, some of our students are looking more and more like that every day. So opt in so you don't miss anything. Everything we share is absolutely free aside from private training. And if you talk to my team, you could be starting your training within 24 hours and making more progress than you have in the last 2 to 4 years. Seriously, for real. And if you have the desire, take the action and start training with us. There's videos coming up for you on the screen that are designed to help you, and I'll see you in the next video. And if you don't want to waste any more time and really want to build a well-rounded, holistic strength, mobility, and dexterity, I'll see you in training soon.